Yo, what is going on? Cover One Crew, welcome back to the show. Everybody is good as always. I'm awesome because we're talking about football as per usual and sticking with this rookie trend even post-NFL draft. Boomer Boss tale of the tape between an Emeka Egbuka and a Luther Burden III. Both definitely great quality wide receivers coming out of college football. Didn't necessarily land in the best opportune situations with the NFL teams. Emeka with these Bucks and Luther Burden lands with the Chicago Bears. But they are very talented wide receivers, and they will make a name for themselves quite early on in the NFL. So let's discuss categorically wise. I think I just made up a word. We break it down by category, I should say it that way. And we'll talk measurables as always for these rookies. Emeka stands 6'1", 202, where Luther Burden is a 6 foot, 206. So very much similar, statures in both these gentlemen. Statistically speaking, Emeka played 49 contests, 205 receptions, 28-68 in yardage, 14 on the average, and a decent 24 receiving touchdowns, where a Luther Burden definitely did, showcase his ability 2 years ago. Kind of fell off a little bit this past year. His stats would have been that much better. 38 contests, 192 receptions, 22-63 in yards, 11.8 on the average, and 21 receiving touchdowns. So both these gentlemen, definitely hover in that similar skill set already when it comes to statistics, but they both are very much slot presences that will be, good to potentially great in the NFL. But let's talk first category. We got speed, baby. We got speed on this board. Emeka Egbuka, he ran a 4.47, where a Burden ran a 4.41. Very close in speed. Definitely you see differences in their game, especially. Both have good wheels, but Burden's got, better, both test and tape speed. You got to believe when you watch them on film, you see it more, the more juice coming from a Luther Burden than you do out of an Emeka Egbuka. However, Emeka can break free with some long speed, where Burden is closer to being that burner speed. So this one definitely goes to a Burden when it comes to just pure end speed. The difference between accelerators and burst, acceleration and burst, is the first step, or is it 2 and 3 steps accelerators rather than the first step burst? Emeka definitely has that 2-step accelerators, which allows him to kind of navigate down the field, where a Burden is more that first step burst, near twitchy ability, almost there. You got to say you've seen it more than once, where you're like, yeah, he's got some twitch to his game, but you want to see more consistency out of it as well. Burst allows Burden to gain that top end speed, where the accelerators give Emeka that gear up, gear down ability, where he does have some long speed when he does get into that open field. Acceleration goes to Emeka and burst goes to a Burden in this sense right here. In terms of yak ability, run after the catch, these two are both uber talented wide receivers and able to make a lot of plays. Emeka has more that mid-range ability to make those big grabs and make noise, where a Burden, he's kind of used more in that short pass, turn up after the catch ability. Both do get a check mark in this respect because they do excel in this department in yak ability. So first debate goes to a Luther Burden, 3-2. He wins this category. It's very, very close, but you got to give the twitchy ability and the burst ability to a Luther Burden. Next one on the docket is route tree on this next category. Some technical moments here. While, Burden can play both inside and outside, make a lot of plays, Emeka's craft is solely in the slot, you gotta believe, man. And the precision to the route run ability for an Emeka, both are very good in this capacity, but the edge definitely does have to go towards an Emeka because he does run his routes very precisely, and we're seeing that coming from Ohio State with his becoming the wide receiver U. In terms of separation, I've seen it far too often where Emeka does have somebody on his hip, where Burden, while it is more schemed up with Mizzou, we've seen it so many times, the pick plays and the ability to get him open. His ability to separate in both speed and, the slight hand push-off definitely works in his favor. Getting open is definitely paramount for slot guys, and Burden gets the nod here for me. It is very, very close. Don't get me wrong here. Don't kid yourself, but Burden definitely gets a nod when it comes to this part of his game. How can you make waves and if you mask, some of your route tree inadequacy? You got to have a filthy first step off the line. Both Burden and Emeka excel in this category as well, where they don't see a lot of jams playing in the slot, but they, you got to still be able to put your defensive back on skates, and this one is an easy tie for me. Both do it extremely well, exceptionally well, and they both get a check mark for me in this regard. In terms of release packages, you got to think Emeka is that guy. He does get challenged a little bit more on the line, and his dedication to the jam, to shove off. His routes are very clean and seem to be getting open off that line. Getting open with good first step release adjustments definitely goes to Emeka here by a hair. So winner, chicken dinner on this category is an Emeka 3-2 over a Luther Burden. Next we talk hands, okay? Ohio State, like I said, as of late, they have become the epitome of hand catchers. You're talking guys like Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, my guy CO2, and then Jackson Smith-Njigba. Now Emeka follows suit. Definitely in this category of guys that can catch the football, guys with very good hands, the one-handers, the difficult grabs, the ball skills. When we talk about the fact that, Burden's hands definitely measured smaller in the mid-size, but there are some drops we have seen to his game as well. Emeka's hands, they are very, very good, and I've already comped him in my scouting report where you're talking about him. He's got some of that Amon-Ra St. Brown to him, so give me Emeka with the hands in this category. Contested catches also lean to an Emeka Egbuka, where I have seen, guys draped on his back, challenged in midair, all up in his grill in the end zone, toe drag swag. We've seen all of this come from an Emeka Egbuka, and he does it extremely well coming down with this football. In terms of agility, Luther Burden, he's the man in this department. Based on the twitchy ability, the burst ability, you may see, how many times the short passes and the creativity with the ball in his hand in the open field. Emeka's definitely no slouch in this department either, but Burden definitely has the edge here for me when we're talking about this category. We talk about ball skills in general. These guys are just straight up playmakers, and like I said about Burden, he can play inside, he can play outside. He has shown some great over-the-shoulder ability, leaping upside, and ball tracking ability is kind of where I'm saying Emeka in this category as well. He's got the body controlling, contorting, one-handed grabs, makes highlight reels. They both absolutely very talented in this respect as well. Don't let the hand size fool you on a Burden. These guys are straight up playmakers, and they will make noise in the NFL. Slight win here in this category for an Emeka. It is very, very close, 3-2 for Emeka. Last one we got on this debate challenge for these two wide receivers. We're starting with playmaking ability, and much like the ball skills, these two are straight up ballers. Emeka, like I said, he's an Amon-Ra St. Brown type of wide receiver, type of player, super consistent. He will catch everything to come his way. He will be that safety blanket. You could likely pepper this guy with 30 targets a year, and he's going to have massive upside in the statistical realm. He did deal with some injuries. We'll touch on that as well, but super consistent, where a Luther Burden, he's like a poor man's Antonio Brown to me. I'm not going to say he's Antonio Brown because that's a little bit disrespectful at this point. We haven't seen him in the NFL, but there is a lot of, mannerisms and traits in his game that we see from Antonio Brown. Like I said, with the ability in the open field, the route tree, and the ability to get open, that slight hand push off, he's got some Antonio Brown in his game. Like I said, landing spot didn't really do these guys both favors here in year one, where Chicago's loaded up with a lot of, talented and skill set wide receivers, where the Tampa Bay Buccaneers still got Mike Evans, Chris Godwin to contend with as well. Stats seem to be kind of like a, meh category overall, but we still got to rank it for this one, where Emeka, even though, he's played more games overall, he did miss time to some injury. He wins this by a nose with better stats just because he played 10 more games. And then we did see Luther Burden kind of taper off last year with poor quarterback play overall. Did not necessarily have his best season, but I think he will continue this uptrend in the NFL. And I do believe that this category is definitely one of these that you got to say stats, it is what it is, goes to an Emeka at this point. In terms of injury history, Emeka followed the likes of a Chris Olave, CO2, my guy, in returning for his senior season. pad those stats, lift that draft stock. He dealt with that injury. I believe he only played like 5 games in 2023. He's like, nah, I got to get this draft stock up, and I'm going to come back. And he had a very good campaign this past year, won the national championship. Now he's moving on to the NFL because we're dealing with that. He was dealing with that grade 2 ankle issue. Like I said, 5 games. But I mean, Burden, on the other hand, he's seen few nicks, few dents, bruises, hasn't missed much time at all. Burden to me today is the more durable player because he hasn't necessarily had, any massive injuries to speak of. For athletic ability, most are going to side with a Burden based on that yak upside. For me, I mean, it is what it is. When you watch Emeka Egbuka contort his body to make these grabs, you see what an athlete he is also. So this, for me, they are so damn good in this respect. I mean, you're not talking about them being like Justin Jefferson and, Jamar Chase, but in their category of what they do well from the slot and what they, their abilities are, it's definitely a tie for this one. So when we tally up the totals, we're talking tie for this category. And final tally for these totals, the winner by a hair is an Emeka Egbuka, but the Ohio State Buckeyes. But like I said, both are truly warranting and being hot commodities in the NFL. These guys are absolutely stellar wide receiver prospects. Burden, like I said, he's got to deal with guys like Rome Odunze, DJ Moore, Cole Kmet, now Colston Loveland, rookie tight end, coming into play in the Ben Johnson system, where Ben, he did pick a Burden to say, this is kind of my guy that I'm looking for. Where Emeka, he's got Mike Evans, the future Hall of Famer, Chris Godwin coming off his injury, my guy from last year, and documented in a Jalen McMillan to contend with. Year 1 is definitely going to be one of those years for both these wide receivers. It's going to be interesting. What kind of role can they definitely carve out? But I have been on record already to suggest these are my guys. Both Luther Burden and Emeka Egbuka are my dudes, and I absolutely love the potential in them in this. Both these teams relatively well, because they should do very well. But there you have it. That is Emeka Egbuka versus a Luther Burden based on skill sets and statistics and where they did land. The future is very bright. We'll see what these Bears do. We'll see what Ben Johnson does with his Chicago Bears offense. So many mouths to feed on both categories, where Baker Mayfield showcased that he could toss the ball 4,000-plus yards last year, where Caleb Williams still got to get out of his own way a little bit. So we'll see what Ben Johnson does. But the landing spot for an Emeka could bear more fruit early on within the first 2 to 3 years, where Luther Burden, we'll see. I mean, you saw what happened to Rome Odunze last year, kind of not really, pulling on stats from time to time, but it wasn't necessarily abundant. But both definitely stellar prospects, definitely warranting of your dynasty drafts. And for your fan bases, you guys should be smiling, because both these wide receivers are supremely talented. But nevertheless, as always, don't forget to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, jump in those comments, give me your thoughts. What do you think of Emeka? What do you think of Luther? Who do you think wins this challenge? You think I'm wrong? Throw it in the comments. We can definitely talk it out, but we'll see you next time. I am out.